We were talking about it off the air, and we want to talk about it on the air now. One thing that we always hear is that, oh, no team has won the cup with a $10 million player. They can't do it. These guys pay their players way too much.
By the way, nobody under the age of 30 makes that argument, but yeah.
Yeah. Can you quickly dismantle that argument for us?
It's just so dumb. Like, the fact that we're even having this conversation is crazy. And here's the way I'll say it. And, trigger warning for anyone who doesn't like a number, because we're going to throw some very basic division stats at you.
They don't like
here.
math sometimes.
The NHL is the only professional league with a hard salary cap, right? What that means is that you should never be looking at contracts in absolute value of dollars, because it doesn't matter. The fact that you're paying a guy $10 million now doesn't mean anything. $10 million versus an $80 million salary cap versus one that's a $20 million salary cap, that's when it starts to matter, right? If the salary cap right now is $82.5 million, I think.
Yeah.
So if you pay a guy $10 million now versus paying a guy $10 million when the salary cap was $70 million, that's where the pay raise comes in. So this is where I want to talk about. $10 million today is less than $10 million in the past because of that hard cap, and players only started making $10 million recently because the cap has risen. So you need to look at this in terms of percentage of the cap. All of these stats are from Data Driven Hockey. Go check them out on Instagram. I really like that account. Right now, a $10 million cap hit is 12.27% of the cap. So what you should be saying is not no team has ever paid $10 million and won a cup. You should be saying no team has ever given a guy 12.27% of the cap and won the cup, right? We went back and looked. Since 2006, 9 of the 16 Stanley Cup winners have paid a player far over that, right? Of those 9, 4 were over 14% of the cap. And by the way, I think Forsberg in 2001.
Oh, they made stupid money back then.
He made $11 million in 2001. So first of all, the argument doesn't make sense from a percentage of the cap perspective. It doesn't make sense from an absolute value argument either. Like what we're saying is that like 25% of these teams paid a guy the equivalent of over $10 million throughout these years. Right? Yeah. And I think McDavid makes 15% of the cap right now, and he should be making 100% of the cap. Yeah, I know that's a joke, but he's just so good, right? The whole reason this argument comes about is because NHL fans love to clown the Leafs.
That's honestly, yeah. We don't want to make it about the Leafs, but we all know it is.
Right? And whether we're arguing that these contracts on the Leafs are good or bad or they're not good is not what I'm going to do now. The whole argument came up because people love to clown the fact that, the Leafs make all these caps and all these contracts, and the contracts are bad. The Leafs will never win a cup this way. And now it's been argued now for the New York Rangers. It's being argued for so many teams. I think this argument will finally change once new free agents are starting to make $10 million, because it's only started to happen when DeBrincat becomes a free agent, when Pastrnak becomes a free agent. These guys are going to make 10 plus. Goudreau next year is going to make 10 plus, right? If Patty Kane becomes a free agent after putting up 92 points, he might have made 10 million for 2 years, right? We don't know. This argument is just, it blows my mind, because it's a bunch of 60-year-old guys saying, "Oh, old-time hockey is gone. Players just want money." No, I'm pretty sure when the Devils won, and I don't know if this is true, but they were paying a guy literally 18-19 million of the cap.
They made crazy money back then. Gretzky was making 10 million in the 90s.
Yeah, the
owners just don't want to spend their money anymore, so they have the hard cap in place.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
I think I don't have the math on me, but I think when the Devils won the cup, they paid a guy, I think 14 to 15% of the cap, which in today's dollars would be like paying a guy, I think I did the math, and it was like 15 million, and they still won.
I'm not shocked. Yeah, I mean, it is a stupid argument. And also, another reason is all these teams with $10 million players are also younger teams.
Exactly.
They're not going to win tomorrow.
Yeah, it's dumb.
Right, all these McDavid's entering his prime, Matthews, Marner entering their prime. These are the core pieces of young teams, and when those deals were signed, COVID didn't exist.
Yeah.
The cap hasn't gone up in 3 years. It's gone up by $1 million this year. That the cap would have been close to $95 million
for
right now because
sure.
it was going up steady $3 to $4 million a year.
Yeah.
Add $10 million to the cap. Now that's not 12.4%. I don't want to do the math, but it's definitely like 7 or 8, maybe 8 or 9%.
Yeah.
It's just these things have everything has come together perfectly to make these contracts look bad when players are honestly getting paid what they're worth.
Yeah.
And last point for me, let's not pretend let's not pretend that Vazzy and Kucherov don't make 9.5. What are you doing with that extra $1 million?
That's
Giving
true.
it to the right leg of a third liner?
That's also very true.
Like they're gonna potentially win 3 in a row. Like just because it's not a double digit, that's literally the same money. They're making $10 million.
Yeah. No, I didn't even think of that. That's a very good argument.
Wow.
That's
stupid.
The argument is very prevalent, like we said, because there's still very old time fans who, you know, don't want things to change. And I remember when Willie Nylander signed that $7 million deal, everyone was like, oh my God, that's way too much money. And now with the way the cap has gone up, $7 million is a bargain for most wingers that score 60 goals a year. The same thing is going to happen when this cap goes up to 90 something million. You're going to say $10 million for the best player in the league is a steal. And by the way, like you said, if COVID didn't happen, when that Auston Matthews deal was signed and the cap is at 90 million right now, people would be going, wow, you got Auston for 11 million when DeBrincat is going to make 12 or 13 this year. Yeah. It's just, I don't think people understand that the cap had been going up steadily for so long.
No foresight. There's just no, it's also like, it's maybe like a lack of ability to reason, but it's also such an easy thing to like make fun of other teams that they don't even like, they pretend that logic doesn't exist because they just want to clown you. And you know what, that's fandom, so it's whatever.
Yeah, if the team that, you know, were the main leaders in starting these $10 million contracts wasn't a team that everyone hates if they're not a fan of, and wasn't a team that hasn't won in 67 years, this argument wouldn't be where it is. And I know people on TikTok are going to say, you know, these guys try to make every point about the Leafs even when it's not. That's my favorite comment that we get because we clown the Leafs more than we appreciate them.
Yeah.
But I mean, this argument was started because of the Leafs.
For sure. That's whenever both those contracts, Marner and Matthews and Tavares for that matter, when they were all signed, you got people on the literal radio, but thousands of people listen to all the time that, I don't know if they can win. It's like, well, you got to pay your players. You want to have bad players making under 10 million, you're not going to win either. So
yeah, and you also
pick a side.
You also paid those guys before they had breakout years because you knew when they did, they would be worth the money. And agents and players aren't stupid. Like Mitch Marner putting up 70 for 75 points that year, he made that big contract. They knew he was going to be a 100-point player. So he wants the money, and you pay him.
He'd been steadily progressing too.
Yes.
He was always going to be a star.
And Kyle Dubas, being a competent manager, isn't going to make that decision based off of the percentage of the cap when they sign the deal. They have guys that project caps very well. They knew to a hair what that cap was going to be. Not a single person in the world would have guessed that a global pandemic would have stopped a cap from going up.
Exactly.
Just people who make this argument, it goes to show that they really don't understand hockey, and they also don't understand how to adapt to change. So
thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content, and find the link to our full podcast and all our socials in the description down below.
Also, don't forget to turn on those notifications to get live updates on new videos that we release.